Alright, so now let's get into how to put combos into your turn-based game. Now, one way, of course, you can do this is just kind of have like these status-based combos, or just like combining different moves to create like better effects. So yeah, you can have like, I'm gonna use Toxic, and then I'm gonna use Venoshock, because then I'll deal double damage. Or I'll set a brain and I'll use Thunder or something. Yeah, you can do that. That's like technically a combo, but it's not the kind of like fighting game combo where you hit them in the air, and then you do something else to them. But maybe you can do something like that. Like, what if Sky Uppercut hit a Pokemon into the air, and then if you Smackdown, it dealt double damage. Really in general, like why doesn't Smackdown, just deal double damage to any Pokemon that is in the air? I don't know. Actually, one thing I thought of is what if they were to bring back Sky Battles, but it was like a second battlefield above. So if you hit a Pokemon with Sky Uppercut, it would knock them into the Sky Battle. And then any Pokemon that knew Fly could just enter the Sky Battle. Or like a Pokemon that uses Fly, they go up, then they spend one turn in like, they can do like one attack in the Sky Battle against another Pokemon or something, and then they come down. Or you're like, oh, I'm going to use Skydrop. I'm going to take another Pokemon and take him into the air. And then both of them do like an attack against maybe some other Pokemon. And then they come down again. And then just, Smackdown sends them back down. And then, oh, Gravity. Oh, now they're all coming down. Maybe. Maybe, probably not. No, Telekinesis. Yeah, that terrible move. It's like, oh, you're in the air now, which means you can't dodge unless it's a one-hit KO move. Then you can still dodge that. Okay, well then they just switch out. Well, what if it sent them into the Sky Battle? Maybe. Really, it just doesn't really work because, well, really, that is, it's one of those really like, kind of like Final Fantasy esque turn-based combat systems where you just got your guys on one side and the other guys on the other side. Really, the best place to do this would be in a grid-based, like a movement-based turn-based game. More tactical, where you got like where you got these guys, your guys, and you guys can like move around the battlefield. In that case, you could have like a monk. You could have like in Dungeons and Dragons, you could have a monk, and maybe a monk could do some fighting game combo. Like maybe he can, a character or can punch a guy into the air like an uppercut, boom. And maybe even a fighter could maybe do that, or maybe throw someone into the air, or like a wizard does like a wind spell, and maybe he blows him back, or maybe he blows him into the air. And then a monk, on a reaction, maybe that could be a special ability. So if like a fighter like pushes a guy towards him, he's like, oh yeah, on reaction, it's not my turn, but on reaction, I'm gonna do an uppercut against that guy, and then I'm gonna jump into the air, and I'm gonna start pummeling him, like do a combo, and then I can either like punch him away, or maybe I can punch him down, or like punch him to the side, and maybe there's like another monk somewhere. So maybe if you want to set this up, if you want to have like 3 monks on your team, and you position them all right, and you get this combo off, like this better like insta kill like a boss, right? Because you go to this much effort, you deserve to do that much damage. So like one monk is like punch, and then he gets punched towards the other monk, and then he uppercuts him up, and then he jumps and he starts punching, and then he knocks him like down, and then there's another monk like right in front of him who gets on reaction like does like a backflip kick, and bam, and then the guy like gets knocked into the ceiling where there's like spikes or stalactites, or maybe he gets like punched into like there's a trap on the ground or a spike pit, and he acts like it's like, oh, fatality, stage fatality. Oh, you can do that because then you actually can have knockback. You can have different attacks, can maybe have knockback because there's space. This attack knocks a guy back 2 spaces. You can do that. So do it like that. No, don't do it like Final Fantasy 6 and 7, where you either have like inputs for moves that you can see the inputs on the screen and you can just put them in, or oh, I've got Tifa and she has like a limit break that just like increases in combo, where it's like, oh look, I need to press A at the correct times, and then as it levels up, her combo gets longer and she just hits the opponent more. Like that's basically how it works. Like That's not cool. That's not cool because you're not. There's no hit stun. There's not even like being knocked around or anything. It's lame. So if you're gonna do it, if you're gonna do like those combos, that's how you do it. Now there is this other game, and I played demos for this on the 3DS. It was Project Cross Zone. Project Cross Zone really sucks. Like from playing the two demos they had, they both sucked. Because what is it? It's a crossover between Capcom, Sega, and Namco Bandai. And you got all these characters from their series, and they're in the story, but the story sucks, right? So it's Phoenix Wright, Mega Man, X, Ryu. I think it's Sonic. It was like Space Channel, like 9. Guys from Resident Evil. Characters from Dot Hack. Like even the characters were just kind of lame. Arthur from Ghosts and Goblins. But what it was turn-based with like a grid. But when you battled a guy, when you walk up to an enemy and battle them, it went into a 2D fighting game style, except that the enemy couldn't move. And the enemies, they did not fight you fighting game style, they just did damage. So what would happen is each character did have like a whole bunch of moves. So it's like, the guy's just, it's like a sandbag from Smash Brothers, where it's like, alright, do a combo on this guy. Kind of, like you can add like this time limit or like this a certain amount of points. So it's like, you have this many points, you have this many moves, do a combo. Or like multiple combos. And it's like, I didn't really know how to do any combos. But in general, this is lame. Like, because why? What is this? Why am I on a turn-based? Why am I on a grid? Because really, like, damage was, you're basically doing like a random amount of damage. Most of the time, like, it was really just button mashing. That's what I was doing. And sure, you could maybe do like a combo and do like more damage. But, then what's the point of the tactics? Then, they might as well just make a 2D fighting game. I didn't get it. And, like, it was just kind of dumb in general. So, don't do that. Don't have it switch between. Like, that is so lame. Just in general, that is so fucking lame. Like, oh, I'm going to combine turn-based and fighting games. You didn't combine it. You just had both of it. I'm gonna combine puzzles and platformer. I'm going to have a platformer, and then every so often there's going to be a puzzle. It's going to be like, it's just going to be like a puzzle from like, I don't know, it's like, oh, I'm going to have Bioshock, I'm going to make a first-person shooter, and then sometimes you're going to play a pipe puzzler. Okay, that's not combining it. You just had a puzzle in the middle, like you didn't combine it. Right? Don't do that. That's lame. It's lame. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Or, well, hopefully it was already interesting. But, let's stop with the fighting game stuff, okay? Let's talk about how do you take a fighting game system, or like an action game system, and translate it into turn-based. Because this can actually tell you a lot. Okay, so, then you got a question, what is turn-based even? Because a lot of people just don't get this, right? Because turn-based, the thing about turn-based, is it is supposed to be realistic. A lot of people have like problems with it, is that, oh yeah, it's not realistic, because why would my guy just wait for the enemies to attack him? That's stupid. And like, yeah, but that's not really what's going on in the world, is it? Especially if you got like the, Pokemon, Final Fantasy stuff, where it's like, the characters are like each on one side. Right? Because if you got like a grid, then enemies are like, you can like flank, and characters are like different locations. In general, the idea is that every turn, it even says this in like the Dungeons & Dragons handbook, right? Is that every turn is basically a second long. Like the entire round. So everything, so if you got like 10 characters, like 5 teammates, 5 enemies, all of those turns, all 10 of those actions, all take place in a single second. They basically take place at the same time, but for the rules to make sense, they all happen right after each other, like a fraction of a second after each other. Kinda. Because like, if you kill a guy on your turn, that guy can't do his action anymore. So it's sort of at the same time. But yeah, if you had like 100 characters, even all their actions will all take place in 1 second. That's basically how you gotta do it. That's basically how it works. So, yeah, it may look, it's like abstract, right? It may look like a character's just waiting, where it's like, oh, I'm waiting for the guy to attack me, but they're not waiting. Not really. Because they basically, their attacks happen right after each other. That's how you gotta see it. So, an action-based system, really what you can do, think about this way, right? Fighting games, or really any game in general, how do they work, right? Because in general, when we're talking about games, we're talking the time, right? Actions take time. So what are the time increments that games use? In general, games run at, well, preferably 60 frames per second. 60 frames per second. So that means that if a turn is a second long, that means that a turn is 60 frames long. Now, in fighting games, right, you got frame data. You know, a certain attack takes a certain amount of frames to start up, then it's active for certain frames, and then it needs to like cool down for like that's some more frames for the character to like get back into like its neutral position, right? That is time. That is a fraction of a second that it takes for the character to do that move, right? So if you have really quick attack, like let's say Fox's neutral air, right? That has like 2 frames of startup. Then it's like out for like, I don't know, 20 frames, and then like 5 frames of like end lag. It's end lag. That's like what, 30, half a second? So that would mean that Fox can do what, like 2 nairs a second? So let's say we do a system where every turn characters have 60 frames to spend on moves. They have 60 frames to spend on moves. You can spend those frames however you want on whatever moves, as long as it doesn't like go over. It doesn't like take more than 60 frames total, right? So if you want to, you could do like 3 forward tilts, or you could do 1 forward smash. Maybe, or maybe like if attack does go over, then maybe your opponent gets more frames. Like if your attack goes like 5 frames over the 60, your opponent gets 5 extra frames. So if Ganondorf decides to do a Warlock Punch, which takes like 2 seconds, Foxy gets just 2 turns. It's like using Solar Beam. Solar Beam takes 120 frames to execute. You kind of see it like that. It takes a second to charge up. So in that case, it's not even that slow. It seems like, oh man, an entire turn, that takes a long time. In anime, it takes a long time for Solar Beam to charge up. Maybe it's just a second. But in a second, like in a fighting game, it's quite a lot. So that's how you can do it. Just have characters spend their frames. Like every turn, you get 60 frames. Do your move. The thing with that is, it is kind of awkward, right? Because then we still gotta, they do, in that case, they do kind of wait for each other. Kinda, right? It's like, oh, I got 60, I can do 2 forward airs. I can do 3 forward airs. And then what, Ganondorf just has to take it? Like, if he's standing there, like this Fox just, oh, forward air. Just kick. And Ganondorf is just taking it. That's not fair. So, what if we did it differently? What if we forget the turn-based thing? Because, again, what is turn-based? Well, where one character gets a turn and the other one. We don't have to make it turn-based for it to be still, turn-based can be other things. So what if we were to make it frame-based? What is frame-based? Well, frame-based is we don't give characters we don't split up into seconds. What we do is a character just has initiative. Like, you roll initiative, and then one character just gets to choose first. And then they do a move. And depending on how many frames it takes to use that move, your opponent gets that many frames. So, if Ganondorf, so he wins initiative, he decides, I'm going to do a Warlock Punch. That takes 100 frames, 140 frames, 20, I don't know, 2 seconds. Fox can use those 2 seconds to do whatever the hell he wants. He can do 12 forward tilts. He can run back. He can run away. He can just taunt twice. He can like, or he can just run up and grab and then just forward air or forward throw or something. He can do whatever he wants. As long as Ganondorf is still still stuck in his animation, Fox can just do shit. He gets that many frames because his opponent is stuck in there. And that way, you can also have real combos. Because enemies also take hit stun. So the amount of hit stun, right? So, let's say, crazy idea here, right? Kazuya does his electric wind godfish on you. Yeah. So you get like stunned and you're like, and then you get like stunned for like 10 frames or something. And then you fly into the air and then you're still in hit stun. During that time, Kazuya, you can just like kind of walk forward and do his up smash. You know, so like the player can be like, okay, DM is like, okay, so Fox is now stuck in like a whole bunch of hit stun. What do, Kazuya? I run forward a little bit and I wait. I start charging up smash, and the moment he comes in range, I let go of my up smash and I just punch him up and deal like 30 damage. You can do that. And so, in that same way, as long as you keep hitting your opponents, your turn never ends. Technically. Because if you just keep like hit stunning him, if you go like, oh, I'm gonna go Sheik, and I'm just gonna keep forward tilting my opponent in a corner. As long as like that keeps connecting, your opponent can do shit. You keep getting plus frames. That's what it is, plus frames. So it's like, yeah, if you're doing an attack, your opponent can do anything. They can do anything they want. But if they're hit by it, then it's like, oh, I hit you. I get like 2 plus frames. I'm going to use those plus frames to hit you again. And then I get even more plus frames. Just plus frames after plus frames. I'm straight up stealing time from you. And they're just taking damage. So yeah, as long as I keep doing my combo, you're on the defensive. Because sure, the other player, they should be able to like DI out, right? They should like, oh, I'm going to DI away so I fall out of the combo. Or, you know, I try shielding, I try air dodging, you know? Or like if your opponent shoots like a projectile at you, I'm gonna do Nair so to cancel out the hitbox. You're on the defensive. Sure, you can try doing like, oh, I'm gonna Nair out. Yeah, you can still do if you are like plus frame. If your opponent is at negative frames, you can still do that if it's fast enough. If your Nair comes out fast enough, you can do that. Right? So there you go. That's like a frame-based system. It's not turn-based, actually. It's frame-based. Some games can be frame-based system. And it's kind of funny because this is kind of realistic, right? Like it is very close to the real game. It's like if the electricity goes out and we can't play Smash Brothers, you want to play tabletop Smash Brothers? Because you can just go online. Well, not if the electricity is out, of course. But there's just a website with all the frame data. You can just adapt that shit into like a tabletop system. It's doable. Now, of course, if you're just saying I do this move, you do have this issue where, you know, because Kazuya's electric wind godfish is kind of hard to input. Or what about a parry? You know, like I'm like, oh, I'm gonna shield, right? And then, you know, you can just let go whenever. Oh, I let go of my shield at the exact correct time to parry his attack. You know, you can just say that. Okay, well, that's not very fair. You know, so what you can do then is add dice rolls. You know, because let's say you're role-playing you're not role-playing as the character. You're not role-playing as Fox. You're role-playing as a person who mains Fox. So you got like, oh, I'm going to role-play Isam. Or like Hungry Box or whatever. You know, like just input some Smash person, some competitive Smash player. And then you can start putting skill points as you level up into doing certain things. So I'm going to put points into Fox, because I'm a Fox main. Right? I'm going to put points into like a backup, like I'm going to counter, you're maining Kazuya, I'm going to counter with Falco. I'm going to put points into Falco as well. I'm playing Kazuya. I'm going to put points into Electric Wind Godfish. And then it's the chance that I do it correctly is going to be increased. Because, you know, very difficult input. So it's like, every time you do it, you have to do a saving throw. You have to do like you have to check if you actually perform the attack correctly. So it's like, if you're really good, like these guys are really good, so like 80% chance. But if you put points into it, like 85%, 90%, something like that. And then if you fail, you can also kind of roll on the table because why does it fail? Okay, well maybe you just input the regular wind cut fist of or maybe like you hold the A button too long and it turns into the dragon punch. Something like that, it turned into a different move. And maybe if that hits, you can still kind of keep going with your combo, but just a different combo. Okay, there you go. You want to parry something? Gotta put skill points into parrying. There's your frame-based system. It is kind of really funny because it does kind of make sense. Because yeah, people complain that turn-based is not realistic. It's not how it works, man. It's not it's not real. It's like, why would they wait? But they're not. It's only unrealistic if you make it unrealistic. And even then, like, abstraction is usually done to make it like faster. Like if you want to make it really realistic, we're going to be playing this forever, right? Because if you can do a Smash Bros on a tabletop, it's going to take a really long time. So in that case, you want to abstract it out somewhat. So, but even movement is like, it doesn't have to be unrealistic, right? Because if Fox wants, let's say they're on opposite end of the stages, Fox is really fast. So it takes him less frames to reach the other end of the stage. Meanwhile, Ganondorf takes more frames. It takes him like a second to get to the center stage. Fox doesn't like in half a second. You can like put that in. Because like if Ganondorf hits Fox away, Ganondorf he can't really follow up. Because like Fox he can just like, oh, I'm just gonna attack, and attacking should also take like like a percentage chance. Probably like 95%, because stacking isn't that hard. Right? But then if you fail, then your opponent can like jab block you. So it's like, it's that one thing where like Fox does like a down tilt and then he does a forward there and then he fast falls and you fall on the ground. And if you tech that, he can't continue his combo, but if you fail, then he can do the jab block. Right? Okay. So Fox, if he hits you away, he has the speed to make up that to get to you really quick and like apply pressure. So it's like if you tech in place, he can just up smash you. So then you got like tech roll back or tech roll forward or land with an aerial. There's all stuff you can do. Now the other thing I want to talk about with movement is, again, people. It's like when your character can't move anymore in turn. Why is that? Is it because he gets tired? No, it's because of time. A turn is just time, really. So if a character can only move like 5 spaces, is that because he's like tired? Like, oh man, I can't move anymore. I gotta wait till next turn. No, it's just that in the time it took him to move those 5 spaces, your opponent also has time to do stuff. Your opponent is not waiting for you to do those 5 turns. If they are in a chase, like if you're running away, he's like, I'm gonna move 5 spaces. Well, your opponent should be able to like follow you. If he's moving at the same speed as you, he should get a chance to move 5 spaces. So it's not like, oh, I'm gonna move 5 spaces. I'm tired. I'm gonna wait till next turn. The other guy's like, oh, I'm gonna move 5 spaces. Oh, I'm tired. I'm gonna wait till next turn. The next turn is like, oh, I'm energized again. I'm gonna move 5 spaces. No, they're basically in the real world. They're like going like this. They're on each other's heels, right? It's just in that 1 second they can only move 5 spaces because they're just that's their speed. 5 tiles a second, 5 tiles a turn. That's how it works. Now, interesting thing is, even like some D&D players don't really get this, because there was this one, I don't know if you know him, it's like a Z Bischoff video, like a animated spellbook. He does like animated videos on like Dungeons & Dragons spells and stuff. There was this one video about the jump spell. What the jump spell does is it allows you to leap like giant like chasms or like jump up to places. Allows you to jump up places, right? So what was going on is there was this giant chasm, and at the other end of the chasm there was an evil wizard. So this one character is like, I'm going to use the jump spell, and I'm going to jump over the chasm. So he jumps, and this chasm was really big. So the DM says, your turn ends, and you fall down. You fall down. Because in the spell, it says that it only lasts for 1 turn. And yeah, the wording was kind of like, yeah, if you're in the air, you fall down after a turn. Now, I found that kind of bullshit. Because certainly, the jump spell, all it does is give you momentum, right? Like you cast spell on your feet, you do the jump, and after that, it's not like Featherfall where it makes so that you like fall slowly, right? No, you already have the momentum. When your turn ends, it's not like, oh, I guess the momentum just disappears, like from the spell, like it just disappears. Like I really don't get that, right? Because really, your turn ending, what it really means is, that wizard that's standing on the other side of the crevice. He's not standing there with his thumb up his ass. He sees you coming. So your turn ending, because this chasm, you have this movement speed. It takes him some time to get there. There's travel time. He doesn't teleport over. He has to move. He has a lot of speed, sure, but it takes like 2 turns to get over this chasm. So what the wizard does, and what should have happened, is the wizard's like, oh shit, that guy's coming over here to kick my ass in a straight line. He's coming straight for him. I'm going to shoot thunderbolts. And then he could just pew and just blast. And in that case, does he keep moving well even though he's been electrocuted, or does he get blasted back? I don't know, maybe it cancels each other out. But really, that's what should have happened. The wizard just gets a turn. If you saw someone coming at you, you're like, oh, I'm not going to stand here. I'm going to move. Oh, that's a train. The train has come it's coming off the cliff. It's going straight for us. I'm going to move out of the way. I'm going to use my turn to move. The train doesn't stop moving in midair. It's like, oh, the train moves 50 tiles a turn. So it's like, woo! It's like, oh, over the course. And then oh, turn ends. Pew. Falls down. That doesn't happen. It is going to keep moving. It's just you have a chance to move your ass out of the way. Or shoot a fireball at it, I guess. That's kind of how you got to see it. Now, where it gets really interesting, though, is once you get to Fallout. Fallout 1 and 2 specifically. What makes Fallout 1 and 2 interesting is that it has a turn-based system, but it also has a frame-based system. Because the way it works is that it has action points. Action points dictate how many things you can do in a turn. So, a character with an agility of 8 has 8 action points. A character with an agility of 4 has 4 action points. Now, I had this special trait that reduced action point costs or something, but for me, swinging a knife costs 2 action points. So, for a character with 8 agility, which was me, I can swing the knife 4 times. Meanwhile, if I had a character with 4 agility, I could only swing it 2 times. So, on the one end, you could kind of see it well, why doesn't agility reduce the cost of action points? It's if you have a high agility, it only costs 1.5 points. But that's kind of difficult to you could do it like that. But this way, because if again you think a turn takes 1 second, if I can swing the knife 4 times, that's a quarter of a second. For me, it takes a quarter of a second to swing a knife. For a character with 4 agility, it takes half a second. They're slower at it. So it takes the same amount of action points, but you have more action points. So you can do it more often, so you're quicker at it. That's how it works. And the same thing was with movement. 1 tile takes 1 action points. So if I can move 8 tiles a second. 8, and let's say every tile is a meter, 8 meters a second. That's time. Meanwhile, a character with 4 points, 4 tiles a second. 4 meters a second. Time. It's time. So this kind of action points are kind of frames. Where it's I can spend this many frames. I'm faster. So I get more it's not. You kind of gotta think it like time. For me, every action is it's kind of hard to use the frame system, but it's kind of the same thing where you just actions cost less time because you have more points per turn. Kind of weird, but that's kind of cool because it's like both systems together, right? It is like I have this turn, I have this many frames to spend, sort of like that. Now this kind of, but with Fallout 3, 4, and like New Vegas, this all went out the window, because in New Vegas and those games, action points are now part of the FAT system. The FAT system does not exist in Fallout 1 and 2, but it was like modeled after it. It's basically its turn-based system. Not really. It really is. It's an auto aim system that also goes into slow motion, and your action points decide how much you can use this, how many shots you can make in while using FATs. This makes no sense, because if you use all your action points to go into FATs, and then once it ends, you can still shoot. So it's not like, and again, it's like it's supposed to be time. Action points are supposed to be about time. So if I spend all my action points, am I tired? Is my battery dry? Like, oh, I can't activate FATs anymore. My battery is dry. So really, that doesn't make any sense anymore. But really, it's just auto aim. So it's like and that's really, again, turn-based. Sure, you got turn-based, but then you also have like percentage chance, like attack rules, right? Because a big difference between that is in action games, in like 3D worlds, you got hitboxes, so you don't need to roll percentage dice. You can just have the player aim and shoot. Okay, and this is the funny thing about the FAT system, is a lot of players will prefer to use the FAT system to aim. And I've seen this in so many Let's Plays. Players will use FATs, shoot at the head, will not notice that there's like, it says like, oh, 24% chance to hit, or like 70% chance to hit. And then they'll get angry if it doesn't hit. I don't think they pay attention to it, or maybe just acting up on the camera. But it's like very funny, where people in general will prefer action systems, but then it's like, oh, I'm gonna choose the percent. Not gonna aim myself. I'm gonna let the game do that. Okay, but I do get it kind of, because like, Fallout like 3's like combat system is not very good. They didn't put a lot of time into the shooting games, right? In the shooting combat. Thing is, if you're putting shooting combat in your game, it should be good. Yeah, you can be like, oh, it's an RPG. We're gonna focus on RPG stuff, but yeah, no. You gotta make that stuff good, because it's like your main combat system. You're gonna do it. You're gonna be shooting a lot of people in a game, so it's gonna be good, right? So like, in general, people just, the reason they prefer action is not really because of the systems, where it's like, oh, I like aiming myself. I don't like rolling percentage dice. No, they do. They love like just rolling dice and see, oh, I'm gonna use FATs to see if I hit, depending on this percentage. No, they just like it to be quick. That's it. They want quickness. They want it to be quicker. And so it's also another thing, because this again, like, if you make things abstract, you make them quicker, but then they complain it's not realistic. Which is another reason why they want to be like action, because that's more realistic. Okay, but in general, they don't really care about realism. They care about speed. Like, they just ignore that stuff anyway. Like, I mean, if they're using action points in Fallout New Vegas, and then they can't, action points, they're supposed to be about time. That's not realistic. Why does my battery run out? They don't care. Whatever. We'll just ignore it. Okay, let's just move on. Because I'm almost done. I'm almost done. Almost. Because the final story I want to tell is a game called Aces and Eights. Aces and Eights is a cowboy tabletop role-playing game. This game is realistic. It is the most realistic game. Like, they went all out with the realism for this game. And because of that, it also has a frame-based system, basically. Super realistic. Hyper realistic. And so it's also very slow. A single combat can take a long time. Because, realism. So, let's say this right. Let's say you got two cowboys. And let's say one of them is, both these cowboys are really good. Right? But one of them is slightly more accurate, and the other one is more fast. The other one is quick. So, high noon, very straightforward. They're gonna have a duel, and high noon they're gonna shoot. So you got the accurate cowboy, and the fast cowboy. Okay, high noon hits, and they both pull the revolver. Now, depending on the revolver, it can take longer to like pull, because you've got like a really big revolver that's like stronger and more accurate and like better long range, but it takes longer. You know, if you've got like a little gun, it's burst at long range, but like it's quicker. But let's say both these guys have like a standard revolver, and the fast cowboy, he like pulls it. It's like in the fractions of a second. So instead of like 60 frames per second, it's like a second is like 10 1/10. So like pulling your revolver for like the fast cowboy takes like 0.25 seconds. For the accurate cowboy, it takes like 0.35. So the fast cowboy has like a 0.10 frame advantage. Right? So, but he's like, the fast cowboy, he knows his opponent is more accurate. Because now you gotta decide, do you shoot from the hip or do you aim? Because aiming takes longer. Like quite a lot longer. Right? But it's also way more accurate. So the fast cowboy is like, the decent pan away, the decent distance between them. He's like, I need to aim around the sides. So I can like make sure my shot hits. Or he can maybe try like shooting multiple times. He's going for the accurate shot. He wants to be this, because the accurate cowboy may only need one shot. So like going for multiple shots, if he shoots 3 times and 2 of those miss, the 2 first, he may not get the chance to shoot the 3rd one. So he's going for the accurate shot. The accurate cowboy knows that the other cowboy is quick. So he ironically goes for the quick hip shot. Right? So he kind of makes up the time he lost on drawing by shooting from his hip. And so let's say he has like, I don't know, like the boat like really good, so I don't know, let's say the accurate cowboy has like a 75% chance of hitting. But he's just kind of shooting at the fast cowboy, so it's like, stomach, head, whatever. The accurate cowboy, after having aimed down the sides and everything, 85% chance to hit. So ironically, the accurate cowboy is quicker and the fast cowboy is more accurate. Yeah. And again, it's like frames here. So it's like the accurate cowboy, 0.35 seconds to pull, then like another half a second to like aim, to like a hip shot, go for the hip shot. Fast cowboy, 0.25 seconds to like pull, and then he has like a 0.10 frame advantage, but then it takes like, I don't know, like 0.8 seconds for him to like aim. So the fast cowboy, the accurate cowboy, ends up shooting first. He shoots first. Then, as the bullet flies, the fast cowboy now shoots. And basically, immediately after he shoots, gets hit in the arm. Let's say, so he hits. So the accurate cowboy hits, like, ah! So he might be able to try dodging or something, but he just gets hit. So the bullet now travels to the accurate cowboy, and he tries to like dodge, but he's not very good at it. They both roll the dice, and they both hit. The fast cowboy, however, was aiming for the head, and he hit. So the accurate cowboy, boom, dead. Drops dead. So the fast cowboy wins. This entire combat, characters, this was very straightforward. This may have just taken like 10 minutes. Because both players have like think about it. You gotta calculate the shit. So anyway, so the fast cowboy, he basically wins. And this is a frame-based system technically, right? So it's very realistic. It's like, it's real life, but it's slower. So that's the problem with, realism, is it's way slower. Thing is, another problem with realism is that back in the Wild West, healthcare wasn't very good, was it? So your wounds would often go septic. So yeah, the fast cowboy won, but at what cost? Because basically, he's handicapped now. He can't his arm fucking hurts. It maybe needs to be amputated. So even though he won, he's alive. Let's say he gets really lucky and he doesn't die. He's with retirement. Your character, you're playing this character, you can't play this character anymore. He doesn't, maybe he doesn't get ripped up. Maybe the character still exists. Like they roll up new characters and then they go visit him. He's writing his memoirs. Like, oh, I'm writing my memoir. I'm writing about my epic cowboy adventures. Other than that, he's done. So really, I got this story from Spoonie. Maybe you know him, maybe you don't. But he put it really fun because he was talking about like realism in the role playing games, And he said like this, right? Turns out that in that game, you do not want to get into gunfights. Gunfights are like the last resort option. Much like in real life. Guess we learned something today. I found it really funny because that is realism. Also if you get headshot, you're dead. Yeah, in a shooter game, it's like, oh, I got headshot, whatever, like 150 damage, whatever. I got like I'm playing a tank, I can keep going. No, not in realistic game. Yeah, it's the same thing in Red Dead Redemption 2. It's like, oh, you want realism? Well, watch this guy like loot this guy for like 5 minutes. Or you can just have the character walk over an item and automatically put it in the inventory. Like players, they often like, kind of as a joke, kind of half serious, half joke. Like they want realism, but like it's just too slow. And so it's good to abstract things out. But it's also cool when even when things are abstract, they also still kind of make like a little bit of sense. I find that very fun. Like, and that's the thing. Like all that logic, all that secret like making sense has kind of it's become lost, right? Because Dungeons and Dragons was meant to be sort of like realistic. Like these rules were abstract, okay, but they still kind of made sense. And then over time they got lost in translation. And now turn-based games, like especially like Final Fantasy games and Pokemon games, don't really make a lot of sense, right? And then people start complaining that and I'll say that at least in Pokemon, the way they adapted into the anime, it looks it kind of makes sense, because it's like they flip a coin, and then the blue side gets the first turn, and it's kind of like, oh, that's like your turn-based stuff, like they get the first attack, and then like speed is like evasiveness. And they are both kind of on their own sides, like the Pokemon kind of stay on their own sides. So, that's still like, you gotta use your imagination a bit. But anyway, that's how to take a turn-based, an action-based system, turn it into a turn-based system. You can do it. You gotta think kind of logically. It's not impossible. And if you gotta do like, if you want to put fighting game mechanics into your turn-based system or some other game, you gotta do a lot of adapting. You do, and ultimately, maybe don't bother, because is it really necessary? Not really. But anyway, I might make like a follow-up video for like talking about the monk in D&D, because it's actually kind of like a fun story. And also talk about Final Fantasy 6 and 7 and how they put like fighting game mechanics in it. Yeah, so that was it. Have fun doing stuff.